Hi everyone, it's David Layfield with Affordable Housing Online, and welcome to our weekly Section 8 update. Today is Wednesday, March 4th, 2015, and sorry I had to reschedule to a little bit of a later time slot. Actually in Washington, D.C. right now with a housing advocacy group. Spent the afternoon up on Capitol Hill meeting with a few congressional office staff talking about housing programs and advocating for better housing policy and funding and other stuff that hopefully will improve housing across the country in the future. So anyway, thanks for accommodating my schedule. So today we're tracking 123 open Section 8 waiting lists right now. Another 8 that are opening soon for a total of 131 waiting lists. That's probably close to the highest number we've found since starting tracking waiting lists mid last year. I'll jump right in and start talking about some that are open right now. Again, there's 123 of them, so I can't go into all of them, and I usually only talk about the bigger ones. If you go to our website and go to affordablehousingonline.com, in the top right, you're going to see a little button that says Open Section 8 Waiting List, or I think it might be Open Waiting List. You click on that, you're going to get one page that has every single open waiting list in the country, including those that are opening soon. And then even at the bottom, we show all the waiting lists that closed in the last 30 days or so. And there's even 20 or 25 of those that were open and have closed. You can see if perhaps your city was open and you just missed it. And then from that page, you can drill down into each individual housing authority's program and see the details about that waiting list. And then we always link out to the housing authority's official website and their applications. We provide as much information as we can. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. I'm going to jump right in. So right now opened Bremerton, Washington. Bremerton's west of Seattle. It opened on the 2nd, which would have been on Monday. It's open until March 15th. It's online only, and it is a random lottery. They will select 300 applications. The last time the list was open was in 2010. So if you're in the Bremerton, Washington area, if you go to our website, follow the link to Bremerton, it'll take you right to the online application on the official housing authority site. And good luck with that. Pueblo, Colorado opened technically, I guess, on March 1st, which was Sunday. It's open for about 90 days. They haven't said exactly the date, but we're thinking it's going to be somewhere around the end of May. It is online, and it is date and time of application. It's not a random lottery, so they're going to take every application that comes in, and the sooner your application gets in there, the higher on the waiting list you will be. And it is the pre-application. It gets filled out online and submitted via email. Detroit, Michigan. So this is a big one. We have a lot of users from Detroit. So it opened on the 2nd, which was on Monday, and we talked about this last week. It's open until March 15th, and it's online only. It's a lottery. They're going to choose 7,000 applications. If it's anything like Chicago or any of the other larger housing authorities that we've covered in the past, there will be a lot more than 7,000 applications come in. There are a few preferences for the Detroit opening. One of the who were terminated from the Housing Choice Voucher program due to insufficient funding. If you remember, a couple of years ago, Congress passed something called sequestration, which actually reduced the funding available to the tenant-based voucher program. It reduced the funding available to every government program. It was across the board. But in the process, some folks who had, were basically had just gotten on the program, were the last ones in, actually had to have their vouchers taken away. So in Detroit, they're making a preference for anyone who lost their voucher based on insufficient funding, which is good because those folks are going to get their vouchers back. In addition to that, other preferences in Detroit: families displaced by natural disaster or government action, and then eligible households. Now, remember, this is Wayne, Macomb, Oakland, Lapeer, and St. Clair counties. All right, so moving on. I've talked about these a couple of times. I'll talk about them again. First, and they're in the Pacific Northwest. First is Thurston County, Washington. That's in the Olympia area. Includes Olympia, I think. And that opened on February 27th. It closes next week on March 12th. It's an online-only application, and there's 1,000 slots. And they probably won't open up for about 3 years. So if you're in that area, if you're in the Olympia, Washington area, you should go to our site and go ahead and apply at the Thurston County Housing Authority site. Also, another one in the Pacific Northwest is Lane County, Oregon. That's the Eugene area, and it opened on February 27th as well, and it's open until March 8th. It's online only. It's a lottery. And you can get all the details at our Lane County, Oregon page on Affordable Housing Online. All right, so there's one more I'll talk about. It's been open for a while as well, but it's a fairly big area. It's Danbury, Connecticut. It opened on February 23rd, and it closes to this Friday, 2 days from now, March 6th. It's print and online, either way. And it's a random lottery. They're choosing 300 applicants, and they have preferences for both very low-income families, that's people below 50% of the AMI, and single-person households. And those applications can only be submitted via email. All right, so let's talk about applications that are opening soon. As you probably know, we have a team of people that are out there searching all the time, looking for waiting lists that are opening up. We monitor public notices and news sites and social media. We work really, really hard to find any new openings and get them to you before they open, so that you have time to think about it and plan. So we have a few to discuss today. There's a couple of larger ones that we found in the past week since last Wednesday when we did this. So I'll jump right in. St. Louis County, Missouri, it opens on March 9th, and it'll be open through March 13th. It's online only. It's a lottery. They're choosing 6,000 applications, and it last opened in 2010, so it's been about 5 years. This is a big one. Go to our website. Go to the St. Louis County Housing Authority page and read up on the details. We will be, there'll be links there going directly to the Housing Authority website so that you can apply online. Franklin County, Pennsylvania, and that's like it's southwest of Harrisburg, and let's say northeast of Baltimore, if I get my geography right. It opens on March 9th as well. It's actually going to be open for a while. It's open through June 7th of 2015. The application is available online, but you have to print it out and mail it in. It last opened in 2013. You can get more details about that on our Franklin County, Pennsylvania page. If you just go to our website, affordablehousingonline.com, click on the Open Waiting List button at the top, you'll find it very easily there. Okay, another one. So one that we stumbled on, I don't know, yesterday or the day before, and quickly sent an alert out to all of our users in the Chicago area. Waukegan, Illinois. It's north of Chicago. I don't know, 45 minutes or an hour or so. Anybody from Chicago knows, sure knows where it is. It's a fairly large program. It opens on March 26th. And it closes on April 2nd. It's online only. This one's tough. The Waukegan Housing Authority has a new website, and it seems to be only one page, and there is no link to any online application. We do in our write-up on the Waukegan page on our website link out to the public notice that I think was if I'm not mistaken, was published in the Chicago Tribune a couple of days ago. So we'll try and gather as many facts as we can about that and post those. And then the other big one I want to talk about that we just found this morning is Stamford, Connecticut, and It opens up on March 25th. It's open until April 1st. It's online only. It's a random lottery, and they're going to choose up to 500 applicants to be added to the waiting list. And you can get all those details, again, on our Stamford, Connecticut pages. So there's a few more smaller ones that are opening up, so I'd encourage you to go to Affordable Housing Online, go to the open waiting list page, and look at the all 8 of them. I won't go into details on all of them. And then don't forget that we're constantly adding new ones. So, for example, yesterday Waukegan wasn't on that list, and last night Stamford wasn't until this morning, until we discovered it. We are constantly scouring, looking for waiting list openings, so keep coming back to our site. Sign up for our mailing list. We send out alerts. We actually just started testing local alerts. So you know, from our mailing list, if you sign up for our list, we know where you're at, and if there is an opening coming up near you, we'll send out an email alert to let you know that. I'm sure a lot of you have already received such a notice. So anyway, that's it for the openings this week. I'm going to go to some user questions real quick. Again, as always, our users are giving us great questions. The first one, are housing authorities required by law to reach out to applicants before they purge the applicant from the waiting list? So, first of all, purging from the waiting list. What that means is that the housing authority removes you from the waiting list. Well, what does the law say? Actually, the regulation that governs the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program does not give any sort of rule about notice when it comes to purging from the waiting list. It does give the housing authority the power to purge from the waiting list. It discusses purging in that it gives housing authorities the right to purge the waiting list, but it doesn't provide any additional requirements. Now, the HUD Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Guidebook, published by HUD, which housing authorities have to also follow, as well, doesn't really give a lot of detail nor pass on very many requirements on how purging is supposed to work. What it does say, and what the regulation also says, is that the housing authority has to include their rules and process for purging in their Section 8 administrative plan. If you don't know what that is, the Section 8 administrative plan is a document that the housing authority is required to produce and publish on a regular basis that outlines all of the requirements of the program. Everything is there. The way the waiting list works, how they open it, how they close it, what they have to do when they open it, where they have to advertise it, and how they go about purging it. So it is to answer the question, are they required by law to reach out to applicants before they purge? No, they're not. They may be required by their own document if the housing authority decides in their own Section 8 administrative plan to say, before we purge an applicant, we send them a letter, and then 10 days go by. If they haven't responded, then we can purge them. But you need to look at your local housing authority's Section 8 administrative plan and see what that actual policy is, because it's different from housing authority to housing authority. Before we jumped on the video call, I went out and I just pulled a random housing authority Section 8 administrative plan that I found. And usually if you just Google your housing authority name and the phrase, in quotes, Section 8 administrative plan, you'll find your housing authority's plan online if they have a website. If not, you can ask for the plan from the housing authority. Anyway, I Googled it before getting on the call, and one random one I found requires actually 2 notices to an applicant before they can be removed from the list, and they can't remove them from the list until 10 days after the second notice. But they're not required to publish a notice in the newspaper or anything like that. Now, sometimes they do. For example, the Philadelphia Housing Authority recently put out a little bit of I think it might have even been a public notice asking people on the Section 8 waiting list to update their information by March 6th because they're going through a purge. So they're actually being proactive in giving folks more than one way to find out that a purge is going to happen. So anyway, hopefully that answered your question. Second question. This is a good one, and I had to research this one a little bit. And I'll probably also punt a little bit and suggest that you call your housing authority, because sometimes there's some nuances with the rules. But the question is, if I am disabled, am I able to request a rental with a second bedroom for an occasional live-in aid? And I don't know that an occasional live-in aid would qualify. However, there is something in all federally funded housing called a reasonable accommodation for a disabled person. And the reasonable accommodation is basically a rule that says that if a disabled person needs a modification of a policy or the rental unit itself, and it's reasonable and it's not cost prohibitive for the provider of the housing, then that accommodation should be made. So, for example, a seeing eye dog or another service animal that a disabled person would require to live is exempt from any pet rules that a landlord or a housing authority might have, because that seeing eye dog is required for that blind person to function each day. So there is a good chance that if you are in need of a live-in aid, and it's medically necessary for you to sustain life or to have a reasonably healthy living environment, then the case may be made that a reasonable accommodation is in order. Most housing authorities' administrative plans are going to address the process of requesting a reasonable accommodation, and then if it's not the Housing Choice Voucher program and it's a private landlord property, let's say funded by the tax credit program, you should just talk to your management company, talk to the landlord, and tell them the situation. And again, it's a little bit of a gray area about the second bedroom thing, but again, I think in some cases the reasonable accommodation would likely be made. Okay, last question, and that is, in a Section 8 apartment, what responsibility does the landlord have to the renters when it comes to loitering? So, yeah, unfortunately, it's sometimes, many times, it's difficult to control the behavior of others and neighbors or other people in the building, and federal regulation and policy doesn't necessarily specifically address the subject of loitering. However, management companies and housing authorities and landlords, they always want to make sure that their tenants have a safe and secure and enjoyable living environment. So they should be trying to do everything they can to keep loitering or other disturbances to a minimum. So I would suggest, because I don't think there's no rules anywhere that's going to help you. So I would suggest talking to the management company, talk to the housing authority, talk to your landlord, and express your concern about what's happening, and that it's actually interrupting your peaceful enjoyment of your apartment that you're paying them for, that you have a lease for. And if the problem doesn't go away and they don't fix it, and you've communicated that to them, and I recommend you can always communicate these types of things in writing so you have a paper trail, then perhaps you have a reason to terminate the lease or request a different unit if it's a public housing authority. If it's something that you can document that is really troublesome for you, then you should be able to somehow rectify that. So anyway, I hope that was a complete enough answer to that question. But it's kind of it's not something that's really in the rules. But my recommendation is to just always talk to your landlord, talk to the management company or the housing authority, and they always want to be reasonable. You're their customer; they want you to be happy. So anyway, that's it for this week. I really appreciate everyone tuning in. And I'll be back in the office next week, and hopefully, we've got some more housing authorities to report on. So anyway, everybody have a good day.